Hey everyone, my name is Robin Solonenko and I'm your Access 365 database instructor. And this short little video is from my Access 365 Foundations course. Now that your tables are built, relationships are set, you're now ready to query or question the data. In this short little video, we will show you how to create a basic query that references multiple tables to get a new record set. Querying more than one table is common practice in Access, as this is a relational database where your data exists over multiple tables. So knowing how to do this effectively is extremely important. Don't forget to check out the entire Access Foundations course, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back, everybody. And now we're going to take this one step further and create queries that talk to multiple tables. And that really is the point of having a database where you break down the tables and then at some point you talk to them and talk across them 2 or 3 tables. So here's the question. I want to see a list of all the cops and the cars they're driving. So we already know that those are 2 separate tables. But they start the same as everything else. So you go to the Create tab, Query Design, and this time from your table option here, you double click on Officers and Cars. Now the first thing you're going to notice is that a line gets drawn between the 2. And that's because there's a pre-existing relationship between those 2 tables. And it's because of that relationship that this query will work. Now the question begs again, well, what fields do I need? Well, it all depends on what you need to support your question. I just said I want a list of all the cops and their cars. So from the officer table, I'll take a badge number, first name and last name. And from the car table, I can take the assigned number, license plate, and the make and the model. That's all. Nothing too complicated, just a list of fields from one side, some fields from the other. And when I run it, or switch it to datasheet view, I get a list of all the police officers and the cars that are being driven by them or assigned to them. But that is key here. This a list of officers and what's related on the other side. If you notice, we're missing an officer. Because if I open up table officer, there are 6 officers, but Betty Boop is not assigned a car. So therefore, Betty Boop does not show up in this query because she wasn't assigned a car. Okay, so we'll save that as, again, QRY _ cops and cars. So that's your first endeavor into talking to 2 separate tables. But it only works when you have a relationship and the people on one side are linked to the other side. And just to go back to design view to make sure you understand, it's the primary key and the foreign key relationship. Primary key in officer was badge number. The foreign key was the it was the other way around, car's assigned number to the car ID on the other side. Okay, save it, close it out. Let's do another one. I want a list of all the cops and the tickets they've been handing out. But I'm going to throw a twist on this. I want to see the first and last name in one field because as we know, when we open up table officer, the first and last name are in 2 separate fields. So let's see what happens with this one. So we're going to create query design, officer, and tickets this time. And again, you will notice that there's a line between the 2, and that's because it's a predefined relationship. All right, so from table officer, I'll take the badge number, and that's it for there. For the table tickets, I'll take the ticket number. I'm going to now move this over because I want something to go in between these 2. So just to give you an idea how to move things around after you've entered them in here, if you put your mouse pointer right here, so it's a black arrow that points down, you click, and then you can click and drag it, and you can move it. Not quite like Excel, but you can move them around. But you need that little black arrow first. in between these two, I'm going to make it wider, and I'm going to zoom in. So remember, that's a function key F2. So what we need to do is we need to create a field name and then the function. So we already did this once. We'll do it again here. So I'll say officer full name. So if you remember, colon, anything to the left of the colon becomes the field name, and anything to the right becomes the actual formula that it executes. So what do we want to do? We want to concatenate. What do I want to concatenate? The first and the last name of the officer. But I'm actually going to put the last name first. So remember, anytime you're talking to or about a field name, it has to be in square brackets. So square bracket, last name, square bracket. That will print that out. And the symbol to concatenate or put together is the ampersand sign. So you do ampersand, and what do I want to concatenate? Well, if I don't put anything in here and I just put first name, it's going to run them together with no spaces. So I need to put at least a double quote space double quote. But I actually do want a comma to appear after the last name. So I'll put a comma with a space and a double quote, followed by another ampersand. And then square brackets, first name. Just like that. Okay, so now that will display the badge number, the officer full name, which will be concatenated, and then the ticket number from the other table. Click OK. Let's run it, and voila. I now have a list, although it's repeating because they've written many tickets. That's okay for now, but you can see it's repeating. And a Lucy Lou, Lou Lucy, Do John, Duck Donald, and a list of all the ticket numbers that they've been writing out. Okay, we'll save that one as QRY, cops and tickets. Okay, so you learned there, again, not only how to talk to two different tables, but how to do a concatenation. Now you could have, if you wanted, to concatenate a field off of a second table, if you choose. As long as there's no repetition, and if there is, you'd have to define the table name first. A little bit beyond the scope of the course today, but you get the idea of how to concatenate. All right, let's do one more. This time, I want a list of officers and their service orders and the mechanics that worked on those service orders. This is 3 tables this time, but it's really no different. Go to your Create tab, Query Design again, and from the right side, we will double click on Officers, Service Orders, and then Mechanics. Now, you'll see this time we do have some lines come in between mechanics and the service orders because there was a relationship there, but nothing between officers and any of the tables because there was nothing related initially. So I can tell you right now, if you try and double click on these fields, you can put them in, but nothing's going to show up properly because we need something to communicate here. So guess what? You can create a temporary relationship between tables within a query that doesn't exist in the main relationship window. And that's what we're going to do here. So all we need to do is the same as if it was a real relationship. You drag a key from one into another, like car ID, drop a car ID from there to car ID here, and you will now see that there's a line. You don't have that nice 1 to infinity symbol, but that's okay. For what we need, it will work. Because now, from the badge, or from the officer, I'll take the badge number and first name, last name. From the service orders, I will take the invoice number, car ID, and make and model. And then from the mechanics, I'll take the employee ID, first name, last name. Okay? And again, It's only the ones that link up all the way through. So let's run this, and voila, we can see we now have a list of officers, the cars they were driving, and obviously the invoice, so that's the service order, and then the mechanics who were working on those same cars that were brought in. Okay, I'll come back to design. We didn't put any criteria on it. It's just a list of officers and information from service orders to mechanics. You learned how to create a relationship between two tables temporarily, which means it only exists when this query is run, and how to talk to, in this case, 3 tables. All right, so let's save this one. Do a save, and we will call this one cars in for service. So QRY, cars in for service. Close it out. Okay, so you can see our query list is starting to get quite long already, and that's okay. And that wraps up creating queries, talking to multiple tables. Now we'll go on to the next topic where we'll discuss in more detail all this criteria that we've been talking about, and some of it we're doing, and we'll do a lot more. See you on the other side.